Hey, welcome to the Restoration Soul Care Podcast, where we have honest conversations about faith, neuroscience, and hope. I'm Michael Camber, a relationship and recovery coach.
And I'm Nick Buddha, a mental health and relationship coach. If you feel stuck in shame, addiction, or pain, you don't have to face it alone. Join us for some real stories, real tools, and a real path forward. Let's dive in.
Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the Restoration Soul Care Podcast. Today, I want to talk about connection and relationship and how honestly porn isn't the real problem. And this is important because most men don't wake up wanting to destroy their integrity or their marriages or their lives. They wake up tired. They wake up lonely, overwhelmed, or carrying more weight than they know how to hold. And here's what nobody ever really says out loud. It's that porn doesn't start as this rebellious thing in you where you're seeking to just tear it all down. It honestly just starts as relief. You're looking for a way out. Think about it. You're not clicking because you hate your wife. You're scrolling because you're exhausted from pretending that you have it all together. You're not 11 p.m. at night because you're a terrible person searching for stuff to blow up your life. You're doing it because you spent the whole day holding on to feelings that you honestly just don't know what to do with. And there's this beautiful line in Genesis where God says it's not good that man should be alone. And that's important because it's not primarily a moral statement. It's a statement about your created reality, what you were made for and how you were made. You were built for connection. When you don't have it, your brain will start looking for substitutes because it's so core to who we are as human beings created in God's image. The question isn't, why are you tempted? That's the wrong question. The real question is, what are you hungry for? Because loneliness isn't weakness. It's a signal, like we've talked about. And if you keep ignoring the signal, you're going to keep reaching for the wrong solution. Loneliness is primarily a drive. And let me tell you something that your brain already knows that you probably never put words to. Loneliness activates the same survival circuits in your brain as things like hunger and thirst. And I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but this is like good neuroscience. When you're isolated, your brain treats that like a threat. And the same systems that register loneliness also respond to sexual cues. It's real relationship. In real relationship, sex releases oxytocin. That's a bonding chemical, and it tells your brain that you're safe, you're connected, and you belong here. The problem is that your brain is trying to bond in those moments. And when porn hijacks that, you got to ask the question, what are we actually bonding to right here in the moment? And not to spoil all this, but when we bond to things like pornography and not real relationship, it creates all kinds of havoc in our internal systems that we got to deal with that we're probably not aware of. Because the reality is that God designed desire to move you toward people, not away from them. Pornography is good desire cut loose from relationship. It's bonding with nobody. And unfortunately, your brain knows it, which is why you feel worse after you use pornography. It's not just the guilt, but because you just gave your brain a promise that you couldn't keep. You told your brain this is good, right, and healthy, and it's not. There's a psalm that says, "As the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you, O God." Desire itself isn't sinful. It's misdirected, and misdirected desire is destructive. Why does porn feel so powerful? You want to know what makes this so hard, so much harder to quit than other habits? Because it's not just hitting one system in your brain. It's hitting all of them at once. Most drugs target one receptor. Cocaine sort of hits your dopamine. Alcohol hits GABA. But sexual stimulus, that's different. It activates multiple brain systems at the same time. We're talking about dopamine. That's your reward system. It hits your limbic system. That's where your emotion is. Your oxytocin pathways. That's, like we just said, your bonding. And it hits your identity circuits. That's who you believe that you are. And there's another part that's the status circuits. That's your sense of worth. And if you're listening and you're thinking, wow, that's really complicated, you're right. Porn neurologically is wide spectrum. That's why it works so fast. And that's why it feels like it reaches into places that nothing else touches. So when you're trying to quit, you're not just trying to stop a behavior. You're trying to untangle something that's been regulating your whole emotional system, your loneliness, your stress, your sense of inadequacy, your boredom. Porn has been the answer to all of it. Proverb says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. Porn offers false hope, and false hope doesn't heal a sick heart. It keeps it sick. So here's the loop that we can oftentimes get stuck in. It's stimulation, reinforcement, and numbness. And real quick, let's talk about dopamine again. I know we talk about dopamine a lot. It's really important when we're trying to get out of a pornography addiction. not the like exaggerated cartoon version where it's just pleasure. The real version. Dopamine does three things in your brain. One, yes, pleasure. Two, craving primarily. And then three, reinforcement. That last one means, hey, keep doing this. Do it again. Every time that you watch porn and you orgasm, you're not just getting relief. You are actually training your brain. You're teaching it where to go next time you feel bad. And here's what makes this exceedingly brutal. Each loop increases the future craving. Each time reinforces that pathway. Each hit drains your motivation for ordinary life. High dopamine early in the day from porn, from endless scrolling, from overstimulation, that will actually kill your drive for everything else. Work feels harder. Conversations feel boring. Your kids feel like an interruption or a problem. And real intimacy with your spouse feels like too much effort. Now, I want you to understand this. This isn't primarily about guilt. It's a biological response. And I'm not saying guilt's not involved. It is, and that makes this a little more complex, and we'll get into that in a second. Here's the quiet part nobody talks about. Porn doesn't just feel good. It quietly disciples your desires. It's teaching you what to want, what to expect, and what feels normal. Scripture says, whatever overcomes a person, to that he is enslaved. And to be clear, you're not enslaved because you're weak. You're enslaved because the loop works. You've trained yourself. It's been rehearsed. It's a habit, and it's been working for a very long time. You know what porn does better than almost anything else? It mutes pain, anxiety, stress, sadness, shame. In the moment, porn makes them disappear. And the problem is, those emotions don't actually go away. They just get sort of stored and locked away. Your brain's keeping a bigger tab. Every time you numb instead of feel, that tab gets bigger. And this is why quiet, small, still moments can become dangerous. When you're not distracted, that backlog surfaces. That's why you reach for your phone the second that you sit down, or if you're in a line for more than 2 seconds. And that's why you can't be alone with your thoughts, because silence feels like a threat. Porn becomes a mute button for that pain. But muted pain doesn't heal. It just waits. And eventually it will get so loud that you can't mute it anymore. Honestly, that's when most guys hit rock bottom. Not because they're worse than before, but because they ran out of ways to avoid what they're carrying. David wrote in the Psalms, "When I kept still, my bones wasted away." And later in another place, he says, "Cast all your anxieties on him because he cares for you." But you cannot cast what you can't acknowledge. Casting requires awareness, and numbness prevents awareness. So we say this all the time. If you want to heal, you have to stop running from what you feel. It doesn't mean drowning in it. It means learning to be with it, to name it, to bring it into the light instead of hiding it in the dark. And if you're sitting here thinking, okay, I get it, but what do I actually do? I made something specifically for you. It's called the Quit Porn Quick Start Guide. It's a free book. It takes about 10 minutes to read. I'm going to encourage you to slow down and not do it in 10 minutes, but it will show you the exact first steps without all the noise. And you can get that, again, for free. Go to rscky.com/quickstart. You can grab that. And I hope this stops you from overthinking and just start moving. Because if you overthink and you've been at this for a while, you will talk yourself out of doing anything good right now. So let me go back to the oxytocin thing for just a minute. Real bonding, the kind that your body was built for, comes from real attachment, safe touch, safe presence, being known, belonging somewhere. And this is what triggers that oxytocin. That's what makes your nervous system calm down. And that's what tells your brain that you're not alone. Porn promises the bonding, but it honestly doesn't deliver it because it's not a real person. It's not a real relationship. You can't bond with pixels. You can't be known by someone who isn't there. You cannot belong to the fantasy. Here's what the data actually shows. Loneliness and porn addiction rise together. They feed each other. The more isolated you are, the more you use. The more you use, the more isolated you become. It really is a brutal cycle. And breaking it doesn't start with better accountability software. Those things are good, but that's not what does it. It starts with this truth. You cannot heal attachment wounds in isolation. As one of my mentors profoundly says in his book, we are wounded in relationship, but we're also healed in relationship. Not in shame, not in hiding, in the presence of safe people who see you and don't leave. This was God's plan from the beginning. Scripture says that we're to carry each other's burdens. Also later, it says, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. Healed, not punished, not shamed, healed in connection, in relationship. So just as a short reminder, if you're trying to beat this alone, you're fighting against your own created reality. You're fighting against your own humanity. And you can't heal this alone. I've said this 100 times. I've said it 3 times now, I think, in this episode. So here's what you can do about this. It's super practical. Go to rscky.com/community, and you can join a free recovery community. It's where Nick and I jump in, we do the work, and we help guys out who are done pretending and done hiding. No posturing, just real people doing real work. And my question is, do you actually want to do anything about this? Are you actually in or are you out? Let's do something about this now. In fact, I'll even give you permission to turn the podcast off and pause if you'll go join the recovery community and then come back to it later. rscky.com/community. Let's continue keeping this very practical. Here's what actually works. Not shame. Here's some real grounded steps. Number one, there's 5 things. Number one, you have to reduce sensory overload. This is about your thalamus. It's that part of your brain that filters incoming information. So here's what we have to do. We have to log out. We have to delete the apps that are causing problems for us, remove those saved passwords. We have to increase friction, not as punishment, but as protection. One of the best things you can do, if I'm going to get super practical here, if Facebook or Instagram is a problem for you on your phone, get rid of the app. But if you have to have it for work, like I do, you don't have to keep the app on your phone. You can use the web browser to access it. Yeah, the user experience is terrible. It makes it almost unusable, and it's incredibly frustrating. But that's a good, healthy barrier, because if that barrier's there, it will make you think, is it worth the effort of having to deal with this before I go to the app? And we want that. We want that space. We want that gap. Romans 13 says, make no provision for the flesh. That's not about, again, being legalistic. It's about being honest. If the door is wide open, you're going to walk through it. Number 2, structure your day. Boredom and meaninglessness are the fuel for relapse. When your day has no shape, your brain will create its own, and it always takes the path of least resistance. So plan your day the night before if you need to. That's okay. Not necessarily every second or every minute, but just the anchors. Have a good morning routine. Have work blocks when you know you're going to work. Put things on your calendar for when you're going to move your body. Have time when you'll stand up from your desk or whatever you're doing and just move. Take a walk. One of the most important things you can do is specifically when you will connect with people. I encourage my clients to do this all the time. I do it. Set a reminder in your phone. Everybody's got a smartphone. Tell your smart assistant, whatever you want to say. I'm not going to say it because it'll interrupt my phone. It'll kill the video. But say, hey, whatever the thing is, remind me twice today, one at 10 a.m. and one at 2 p.m. I'm just throwing some times out there to stop and call my friend. Text my friend. And when your phone goes off, follow through. Just do it. It's going to go off, and you're probably going to be in a meeting or maybe at an inconvenient time. I don't know. But interrupt your day. Like, this is important. Ideally, I know this is really inconvenient. Hopefully you don't have to do this forever. But for this season that you're in and you're working to quit pornography, this is what it's going to take. Fill the empty pockets intentionally, because an empty schedule is an invitation. Psalm 90 says, teach us to number our days. Meaning beats willpower every single time. Number 3, you have to learn and develop emotional regulation. This is the big one. You have to replace porn's function, not just remove the behavior. Porn has been your regulator. Feeling stressed? You go to porn. Feeling lonely? You go to porn. Feeling bored? You go to porn. Angry? You go to porn. You need new tools. So some easy things that you can get involved with. Again, go to YouTube, search breath work, breathing exercises. That's super easy to integrate. You can add those to your phone reminders if you want. Movement, get up, move your body, walk. Prayer, spend time with the Lord, invite him into what you're doing. Journaling is super helpful as a reflective exercise. Call a friend. And again, if we're talking about feelings and developing emotional regulation, journal your feelings. Pray your feelings to the Lord. Breathe through your feelings that you're experiencing. Call a friend and just tell them how you're feeling. I'll never forget this years ago. One of my best friends sent me a text message and it says, hey, I'm feeling really lonely. I would love to hang out with you soon. And I didn't see that as like, oh, this is a pain in the butt. I should ignore him. Why do you have? I didn't shame him. I was like, why are you lonely? You're stupid. I just felt honored. I was like, oh my gosh, you're lonely and you decided to text me? Heck yeah, dude, let's hang out. So do that. Psalm 46, remember, be still and know that I am God. Stillness reveals what porn tries to hide, and that's exactly why you avoid it. So stop avoiding it. Number 4, identify those triggers and weak points. This is a piece that you can spend some time on. And again, go grab the Quit Porn Quick Start Guide, rscky.com/quick start, because these specific exercises and journaling prompts are in that. So go download it. We want to look at the time of day, your location, your emotional state, your specific stressors. You already know your patterns. Stop ignoring it. Stop pretending you don't. Map them out. Make pre-decisions. You have to get crystal clear on what your ritual is. If you can't do that, just stop now, because you're never going to go any further. You have to be able to take an honest look at it. And here's the reality. Proverbs 22 says this: the prudent sees danger and takes refuge. Don't walk into the same trap and act surprised. Number 5, we have to restore community. And by doing that, we restore our dignity. You have to find safe people, not people who will shame you, not people who will give you easy answers, but people who will stay with you in the mess, in the pain, in the chaos. Regular contact, not just when you're in crisis, weekly and daily if needed. That's okay. One of my biggest encouragements, the best thing you can do is overstate what you're experiencing. And by that, I mean, you might be thinking, okay, I would love to connect with somebody regularly through this, but I don't want to blow up my friend's phone multiple times a day. And by that, you're talking yourself out of the help that is in front of you. If that friend is that good of a friend, all it could take is a phone call or text and say, hey, I'm working through this thing with pornography. I might lean on you a little more frequently in the next week or so. Are you cool if I call you or text you, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a day to help me interrupt my cycles? If it's that good of a friend, they're going to say, of course, I'd be delighted to. You're not a burden to me, right? But you have to lean in and trust that. And it's going to be scary and you're going to want to talk yourself out of it. But you just have to ask for what you need from people and let people show up and bless you. Do things that you can respect yourself for. Small things. Show up, keep your word, contribute somewhere. Your brain needs evidence that you are not who shame says you are. You have to prove this to yourself. Hebrews 3 says, encourage one another daily. Daily. That's what we just talked about. Not monthly, not when it's convenient, daily. Because here's what shame does in your brain. It lowers your perceived status. And when your brain believes that you have a low status, meaning that you're not worth anything to anybody, it drives compulsive coping behaviors. And that might not just be porn. It might be alcohol. It could be drugs. It could be an unhealthy amount of time on screens or video games or social media. The reality is that porn thrives where your identity gets fractured. So when you believe deep down that you're damaged, you're unworthy, you're a piece of crap, you're too far gone, shame already has a script. And it will tell you every single time you are the problem, you are broken, you are too much, and you're not enough. The gospel, the good news, is that we get a different script. Romans 8 says there's now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And that's good news because also 1 Corinthians chapter 6 says you are not your own, you were bought with a price. That's not ownership by shame. You belong to something else. You belong to love. You belong to someone else. You belong to God. You don't clean yourself up and then come to God. I know this feels basic if you've been a Christian for a while, but you got to hear this. You come to God and he does the cleaning. He does the healing. That's the whole point. Christ came down to us in a embodied human suit because you couldn't do what was required. He did it. You are loved. You are being restored. Not because you earned it, but because that's who he is. Your identity isn't what you do in secret. It's who you belong to. You got to know that. I want to give you one simple practice that you can use today. And I didn't come up with this, but it's called urge surfing. So the next time you feel the pull, and you will feel it, here's what you can do. I want you to sit down. I want you to breathe. Deep breath in your nose, exhale it through your mouth, and just notice. Just notice the urge. Where are you feeling it? You don't have to obey it. You don't have to fight it. Just notice it. Name it out loud if you can. And you could literally just say this: I'm feeling the urge to use right now. Urges rise, and then they peak, and then they fall. Like a wave, you don't have to ride every wave. And this is important because most urges have about a 90-second window when they rise, peak, and fade. And again, we're not trying to just white knuckle and power and ignore it and say, I don't really feel like going to pornography. I'm not urging right now. You are. Acknowledge it. Tell the truth about yourself and what you're experiencing. I am noticing the urge to go to pornography right now. 1 Peter 5 says, be sober-minded, be watchful. And that's not a panicked person. That's presence. You're being present to what you're experiencing. You're watching the urge without letting it control you. Give it 60 seconds. Most of the time, that's all you need. The urgency will fade. Now, listen, if you just heard those 5 steps and your brain went, cool, but I have no idea how that applies to me, stop guessing. I tried to make this as easy as possible. I want you to book a free call with me. And again, this is not some way to dupe you into a sales pitch. I got 30 minutes for you. We'll figure out what's actually going on, what's actually keeping you stuck, and what your next steps look like. Again, it's not a sales pitch. There's no pressure. I just want to offer you some clarity. And I'll tell you the truth. If I think that that's coaching with me or Nick, great, I'll tell you that. If I think it's going to an inpatient facility where you need to really go check into someplace for a week so you can get some help, I'll tell you that too. If I think it's like, hey, I think you can do some work on your own in community at your church where you're at, I'll tell you that too. Go to rscky.com/get started. There's a Calendly module there. You can pick a time. And you got to remember, the cost of doing nothing is way higher than 30 minutes of your day. I'm here to help you. Remember, you're not broken beyond repair. You don't need more shame. You need formation. You need to rebuild emotional strength, relational capacity, and spiritual grounding. Don't do this alone. It's not how you were created. God created you for community. He created you for relationship. See you next time. Hey, thanks for joining us today. If you found this helpful, do us a huge favor and subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Or, better yet, send this to someone who needs encouragement.
For more tools, resources, and information about our coaching, check out rscky.com. Keep showing up.
Yeah, we'll catch you next time.